Hello viewers. Hi subscribers. Hope your five senses work. Health and strength is good or excellent. Yep. What I got for you guys here? Let's see here. We're talking about this Gpd here. Let's hear out. This outlandish new gaming handheld has a huge 4 terabyte SSD and up to 128 gigs of RAM. Gpd Win 5 is getting at least 3 different configurations, up to 64 gigs of RAM and 4 terabytes of storage, and a 128 gigs model planned. Yeah, they might need to increase the screen size for that. Anyway, it says Gpd Win 5 sets to launch in just a few weeks. The company has now confirmed that their 3 different configurations will be available when it goes on early release for crowdfunding investors. This AMD Strix Halo handheld gaming PC will sit apart from other Steam Deck rivals, maxing out a huge 64 gigs of RAM, 4 terabytes of storage, with 128 gigs RAM model, potentially coming later. Our best handheld guide is filled with some powerful gaming machines already, but this Gpd contender could outperform them all thanks to its AMD Strix Halo CPU, the huge RAM and storage configuration, along with the detachable battery, makes this one of the more intriguing handheld launches we've seen. Sometimes Gpd issues in the update about the launch plans for the Win 5 in the past on formally Twitter. In the post, the company confirmed that there will be 3 configurations on sale when it undergoes a pre-sale launch on its Indigo crowdfunding page. That date isn't confirmed, but Gpd Win 5 release date has been set on its website for October 17th. Says here, in the past, Gpd confirms the base model will features AMD Ryzen AI Max 385, the 8-core model with an integrated AMD Radeon 8050S CPU. It will also have 32 gigs of RAM along with 1 terabyte SSD. It says two further models will use AMD AI Ryzen Max 395 instead of a 16-core processor with more performance power. On paper, the AI Max 390 that performed well in our Asus ROG Flow Z13 review, alongside a boost clock of up to 5.1 gigahertz. The AI Max at 395 also includes integrated AMD Radeon 8060 GPUs. These 2 Gpd Win 5 models will both have 32 gigs of RAM. Steam Deck can already do it. Says here, available along with either 2 terabytes or 4 terabyte SSD. Interestingly, Gpd also speaks about a further model with 120 gigs of RAM, which would certainly eclipse any gaming handheld we've seen to date. According to the company, this model might be ready for the crowdfunding pre-sale if everything goes well, but it can't guarantee that just yet. The company hasn't confirmed how much any of these handheld options will cost either. Price aside, it's fair to say that Gpd isn't necessarily playing it safe with the Gpd Win 5, especially when it comes down to it. Designed just this week, the company confirmed that it was working on a new Gpd Win 5 power cable that will allow you to power it from the battery without being directly and physically attached to it, dropping the weight by 1.1 pounds in the process. It says it's good to see some innovative new approaches creeping into the handheld design, especially with the most design seemingly very reminiscent of the original Steam Deck. That the OG may have defined the handheld market, but the upstart like Gpd look to shake it up for the future, and I am personally excited to see how well this new Win 5 handheld Yeah, yeah, GPD. They're doing their thing. Keeping up with the times and the demands of video games, and they're and they're coming out swinging. So yeah, but the Steam Deck, you know, all this does is validate the Steam Deck. What Valve was saying, we couldn't find a game the Steam Deck couldn't run, and that statement was loud and clear. The competitors is like, okay, cool. Thanks for the motivation. Now we got something to say too. Yeah, so all this does is just validate the Steam Decks. You know, he says, I am personally excited to see how well this new Win 5 handheld works in person. We'll be keen to get our hands on it for a review. But until then, make sure to check out our best gaming laptop guide if you are looking for a portable gaming rig with a bigger screen. Yeah, screen size does matter. It says, excited to see a hugely powerful Steam Deck rival like the GPD Win 5 launch? Let us know. Well, Valve said we couldn't find a game the Steam Deck couldn't run. The competitors is like, okay, we got something to say about that, you know. We just do. And they've been Valve gave them the fuel and ammunition, and they just came out swinging from all angles, man, with these handhelds. So, yeah, all this does is just validate the Steam Deck. Yeah. So, yeah, GPD stepping their game up, you know. I'm hoping they increase the screen size too. You know, hoping that they increase the screen size, you know. That sliding keyboard that they got underneath, they beat Sony to it. So, so yeah, good, but good for them though. Good for them. You know, they're coming out with a 64 gig model and a 128 gig model. Yeah, they're coming out swinging, man. But yeah, this article talks about it says it's good to see more innovative new approaches creeping into the handheld design, especially with the most design seemingly very reminiscent of the original Steam Deck. That OG may have defined the handheld market, but upstarts like GPD look to set to shake it up. Well, of course, you got the Legion Go 2. You got the Oxo to contend with, 1X, of course, A and Neo. Yeah, I want to see what Logitech is going to do if they're going to come out with something new, or are they working on something new? So yeah, of course, there's Microsoft coming with their handheld, but all these handheld just validate the Steam Deck. You know, Nintendo didn't grab the bull by the horn. The reason why the Switch didn't didn't do anything for handhelds is this. Nintendo tried to play conservative. They did not grab the bull by the horn and ride that bull. They didn't. They tried to play conservative. And when games came out to run on the Switch, they didn't run so good. But Valve came out the gate and was like, look, we couldn't find a game the Steam Deck could not run. Checkmate, game over. Okay? Valve grabbed the bull by the horn and didn't look back. Okay? I remember when I was covering the Steam Deck, I was saying that Valve need to be in the news more because video game news is like real estate. And I guess they heard and they opened a line of communication with the user base and they took off running. They haven't looked back since. So, and then they came out with the OLED, but the competitors have been coming out with their own. And Dave was feeding off what Valve was saying. They weren't playing conservative. They weren't playing conservative and being scared or being shy. They were just coming out swinging, you know, with their handhelds with different screen size, different specs. So all these handhelds just validate the Steam Deck. That's all they do. It's just validating the Steam Deck because they're feeding off the statement that Valve made, including Microsoft too, including Microsoft. So GPD is just coming up with some improved specs and hope they improve the screen size I mean the screen size, but that sliding keyboard is a nice feature, you know, if you want to type, send texts and all that. So they need to improve the screen size, but they're coming with 2 different models, and good for them, man. So yeah, gotta stay competitive in this handheld market. But Valve said they were looking for a generational leap, so we'll see what they do. But for now, GPD is coming out with a new handheld, but I'm hoping that they need to increase the screen size though. Don't come back with the same screen size. Oh no, don't do that. They got to improve it, you know. So and then take it from there, because you know when you get up there in ages, you're gonna need to increase your visibility. You know, that's why when it comes to video games, you don't be sitting there playing on those small screens or nothing. Increase the visibility. You know, one thing with the PSP, look, for instance, like with the Sony with the Vita and the PSP, they tried to play out. They were playing conservative too much. You know, they weren't grabbing the bull by the horns. They weren't grabbing the bull by the horn and like come out swinging. Valve puts 16 gigs of RAM and then had some hidden features on the Steam Deck, and then the modders got to find out, oh, you can put 32 gigs of RAM on here? Okay, cool. They took that and ran with it. Sony, on the other hand, they try to play conservative. Valve didn't. So these competitors now are feeding off, in the PC space, are feeding off what Valve said, and it's been lights out. So good for GPD that they're coming out with something new, though. Good for them. And we'll see what they bring to the table with their new handheld, but the screen size will play a factor, you know. Yeah, they need to have like an 8-inch screen. Just saying. Anyway, but good for them though. 2 terabyte model, 4 terabyte model. SSD. Yeah, and you're dealing with Windows. Yeah, you're gonna need that. 64 gigs of RAM or 128. Yeah, they're coming, man. So, I mean, of course, Valve is sitting there watching all this. So, yeah. Anyway, man. But other than that, man, good for them, man. Good for them. Good for them. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace. Or bye for now.